60 seconds, one story. Now, this is going to be an important video. I'm going to keep it as brief as possible. I want you guys to like and share this video to everybody you know who actually cares about what's going on in the world and the bigger picture, who's got a sense that there's something happening or something in the air or some changes afoot. Now, what we are seeing out there needs to be explained in terms of terminology before you can even try to understand what's happening. Okay, we often hear a word called neocon and neoliberal. And people get confused because one of the biggest tricks of the book is to get an important technical term and dilute it or even address it, assign it to the opposite, and then make that often used so that the actual meaning of the word's obscured. And that's what we get with liberalism. Liberalism has got nothing to do with being liberal. It's got nothing to do with being progressive. It has zero to do with any of that at all. It is an ideology that came out of modernity, and it also had its bedfellows as communism and also fascism, which are two utopias. And liberalism is not a utopia, but it's more about how the economic structures operate. Okay, now who was its enemy? The other two, communism and fascism, which are both socialistic in the sense of bringing together the whole of society. And obviously, fascism is more concerned with arming and fighting and nationalism and empire building. And communism is more concerned with uniting workers to fight against the liberals or the liberalism. So when we hear the term liberalism, what you got to think of is the owners, the globalists, or the international capitalists. They're the type of people that have massive yachts, don't pay rent, don't pay any kind of taxes, have tax havens, and are shareholders in the very biggest companies. So if you have a look at BlackRock, you'll see their shareholders are only a small group of people. If you have a look at Murdoch's empire, News Limited, you'll also see that it's a small group of people that are running that. Now, as an Australian, I am very, very lucky because the liberalism has always reared its head in this country. It's always operated since the very opening stages, and it still operates today. And some of the families that are global players had their beginnings in Australia. Murdoch, for example, that family had its early stages here in Australia and then emigrated from Britain to Van Diemen's Land and were paymasters for the East India Company. So the East India Company, the British East India Company, I believe, it's hard to tell, but I believe really morphed into what we see today in terms of America, Britain, MI6, trying to control the rest of it. So what is happening today? What it seems like is once you realize that the liberalism is what the owners or the globalists or the corporate or whatever the Occupy Wall Street we're talking about, that's who they are. Now, who are the neocons? Who are the neoliberals? Well, the neoliberals are liberals, okay? They're the liberalism. They're the people trying to run the world this way. Who are the neocons? They're also neoliberals. However, Americans got very, very, very confused because they're going, wait a minute, how can a conservative be a liberal? See the brainwash technique? So they call them neocons, and then they call it the uniparty. There is no uniparty when it comes to liberalism. They are not a political party. They're a loosely associated group of oligarchs that control as much of the means of production as you could imagine, and they control the media so they can keep brainwashing their people to maintain their order. And how do they make money? The way they've always made money, my friends, through war. It's never changed. It's always been the same since about the 1490s. It's been the same. So who was there before the liberals or the neoliberals or the liberalism? Was the monarchs. And they took the monarchs out, and they're still here. So what is happening today in the US? What I believe, this is pure speculation. You're not going to see this in anywhere near the next 20, 30 years. And then after that, you'll find out if I'm right or wrong, I guess, if you care to, if you remember. But here's what I believe is happening. Having read past plans of the US and the plan that Wolfowitz wrote in the 90s, didn't really work. And the one before that in the 70s, which was to do with the Nixon shock, and rearranging the global economy based on the US becoming a deficit country and sucking in all the deficits. Right back all the way through, you can read plans now because they're declassified. But what's the current plan? Well, here's what I think. I think, and let's call them the company. Why don't we call them the company? Because the CIA is called the company. British East India Company was called the company. So let's just call them the company, right? The company has seen that they're going to lose political power. They would have seen it in advance, and now it's happening. Okay, so what have they done? They've, together with the clandestine forces, which is CIA, MI6, Mossad, and whomever else, they are now engaging in arming and backing extremists on each part of the world that they want to exploit to get more and more resources out of and maintain the company's profit lines. So where's that? Libya, they've done that. They've got Libya. Syria, they've now got Syria with 30,000 Al Qaeda fighters. Afghanistan, they've got Afghanistan. I know we've withdrawn from it, but we left the weapons there for them, and they are no doubt sending people into China, including that terrorist attacks in China at the behest of the clandestine forces on behalf of the company itself. Okay, now where else? Ukraine, we can see that there. That's not hard to see. As soon as the money pulls out, you just know money's going to flow in there, and crazy Ukrainian right sector, right, and all the rest are going to be bombing into Russia and bombing into Europe. So this is how they're going to maintain control. They're trying really hard in Taiwan, and there are some people in Taiwan who are against the Chinese government in Beijing. But I don't think there's enough. I don't think they can really get it going. And I think that the Chinese are very good at rooting these people out and bringing them to justice. So what is going to happen moving forward is the company is continue these attacks, these terrorist hits. Look in West Africa, they're smashing into Nigeria right now as we speak. They're going to maintain bases, they're going to maintain special forces, and they're going to do this loose alliance is going to continue to fight wars and cause trouble, even so as the government in America and the governments in Europe change and don't want a part of it, and they'll even engage against them. So that's what's going to happen. We've sort of seen it before with the British East India Company. However, the difference is the British East India Company was dismantled by Parliament. You cannot dismantle this one. It's completely private. It's not owned by the government. It's completely private. People like George Soros, people like Hillary Clinton, people like Tony Blair, and there's others up there, are the very top of that tree. They're the ones running the show politically, but then underneath them is all the companies that are profiting, including all of these defense contractors. So that is what is happening. And how's it being hidden? It's been hidden through propaganda, through messing with words, not-for-profit organisation. Hey, this is a democratic institution. And democracy is one of those words that's used all the time. And frankly, if you know who these guys are, then you know how good democracy actually is.